Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the Essential Life series with Kara Blattman-Rock. I'm the founder of doTERRA in Israel and recently moved to New Mexico and developing a wellness community of doTERRA and other like-minded women mostly, but we're totally open to men being here, of how we take care of ourselves in this day and age, empowering ourselves through all different kinds of tools. So today's mostly we focus on essential oils and the doTERRA lifestyle products. But I was very inspired. I'm very inspired by many women in my life that use doTERRA and also have other modalities that they reach out and share to the world. And Ariella Halevi is on with us today, and she has the founder of Soul Centered. She's going to tell you all about it. And the reason I wanted to bring her on, because I feel it's very fitting for where we are as women on this call. And I know my community of wellness advocates and members here, we're all about empowering ourselves with different tools. They're essential oils, how we eat, how we take care of ourselves. And so Ariella's work is perfect for fitting into what we do and helping empower us to that next level. So a little bit about me and Ariella. We met like 5 years ago, I think. I don't even know. I'm not so great with
Somewhere
timelines.
in there. Yeah.
Somewhere in there, 5+ years, let's say, in Renana, Israel. And she is and was a doTERRA wellness advocate for me in Israel. And so I'd run up there to her beautiful home and her beautiful community and work with her on introducing her community to doTERRA. And so we've known each other that way. And then she had moved to Denver with her beautiful family, and we kind of lost connection, and then we reconnected, thank God. And we had a conversation, and I really was inspired to want to put her on this Zoom call and interview her and what she offers, so that we can use some of those tools in our work, in our path of growing as women and empowering ourselves. And then we're also going to include how she uses oils with that. So she is the co-founder, and director of healing of the Soul Centered. And through her program, she helps women. I say all women, but your focus is women in the afternoon of life. I love that that language is midlife or beyond women, which is me. I'm going to admit to that. And Ariella and most of you wonderful ladies on this call. But this information can fit all women, I'm sure. And really reawakening us to have a deeper connection to our spirit, to really use the tools and our intuition to heal, and feel empowered and aware and awakened on our journey. And she's going to go into it more detail, but just how there is this awakening at this time in life, right? Where we're just like reassessing, like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing? How am I serving? How am I serving myself and others? Is this my best and right path? And so that's her work. And I thought it's gonna be really empowering for all of us on the call to learn about it. And then she'll tell you about the different modalities that she uses, which are really exciting, and the different tools that she uses. So I'm gonna just turn it over to you, Ariella, with the first question of, tell us about your story and what really inspired you or called you to your work, brought you to your work.
So thank you, Kara. It's so nice to be here. I was on this call when I lived in Israel, I think quite a few times. And I've been in the States for 2 years now, back in the States. And I just want to say, just to kind of reiterate, there has always been this special connection that I have felt with you, Kara. And there's people in life that I call expanders. And those are the people that you look at and you think, I love what they are doing and what they have and who they are. And you surround yourself with those people. And Kara, as you all know on this call, she is one of those people. And so I am just so grateful that we reconnected and to be back here and to join forces again with you. And definitely you are an expander. So
Thank
thank you.
you.
Um, so my journey is in somewhat unique, and then in other ways you'll probably hear yourself in this journey. That so I'll tell you a little bit about myself personally, and then what led me to found and create Soul Centered. As a young child, I always felt that there was something missing in my life, that I wasn't whole. And, you know, as a child, I don't know how we know that, but there was this inner insecurity. And even though I had outer successes as I grew older, I built a beautiful life. I married my soulmate, and he is my co-founder in Soul Centered. I raised and am raising 4 amazing children. I have been leading and guiding women, especially, for 20 plus years. My husband was a rabbi. I mean, he still is a rabbi, but we had 2 large congregations in Boston for many years before we made Aliyah. And I was doing so many things with women, leading and guiding. I had a private practice. I was doing health coaching and yoga and teaching and so many different things, just empowering women. And all along, I felt like a fraud because I had never truly healed those wounds and the shadows inside of me. And I was really terrified as I was standing up in front of all these classes, leading these women in yoga and helping all these women become whole, when I didn't feel completely whole myself. I had body dysmorphia as a teenager and into my 20s and some of my 30s. I felt that I was missing a deep intimacy with myself. And I really had a large amount of limiting beliefs because of the way that I was raised and the way that you'll hear in some of my work that I do ancestral trauma healing. And I was a sensitive, empathic child that just kind of was a sponge, which we are when we're this sensitive, to all of the lineage trauma and wounds and just kind of ruptures that I was born into. There's nobody's fault. It was just kind of it's my path. And what happened is that about 2.5 years ago, well, longer than that, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease about 6 years ago. And that started my awakening and my journey. And I had to understand that my body was more than just this physical body I was looking at, that there was something deeper inside of myself. And it created this really deep awakening that culminated with the diagnosis of my mother, who I lost to cancer 2 years ago. So with her diagnosis and my autoimmune disorder, it was like a perfect storm for my body, for my emotions. And I approached midlife with this trepidation and deep despair and wondering how I was going to ever pick myself up. So what did I do? I made Aliyah to Israel. Not sure you should do that when you're having a midlife crisis, but it was a wonderful experience. And what it did really, you know, moving to Israel and also just this midlife awakening, it helped me discover the divine feminine, God, spirit, whatever you call her, inside of my body. And I was starting to empower myself as I saw my mom decline. It was just this really weird journey that, of course, I would never wish on myself or anyone, but it was an opening to the wisdom of my soul. As I realized that my mom was declining, and the day she was diagnosed was it was like a mini death. And so as I was losing my mom, I was gaining myself. And then with the loss of my mom, it was like the doors blew open and I found my wholeness, which of course it was so hard to feel like I was whole as I was losing somebody that I loved obviously so dearly. But I fell into Mother Earth, and she became my mother. The divine feminine spirit within me became my mother. And I felt empowered to my root. I did a lot of healing work. I healed the limiting beliefs and that ancestral trauma, and thank God my autoimmune issues are healed. And so I recognized that all the work that I did with women needed to shift and just morph. And as we grow into midlife, this is what happens to us, is that we shed layers and we awaken to our true purpose. And my true purpose was that I was a healer, that we are all, as you know, being on this call, we are all healers. If you don't know, I hope you know. I'm sure you know. I'm sure Kara has said this. We are all healers, and we are all able to do the work we do. But I started to feel so empowered that I shifted my work into intuitive guidance and healing. And something that I do also is called the journey work, which if you live in Israel, you may have heard of. It's guided healing visualizations. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the call. But I discovered that keeping your gifts to yourself is not a gift. Like, if you have a gift, you have to share it. And I have created Soul Centered as a dream that my husband and I share, in order to create a spiritual community. We had a large Jewish community, and Soul Centered is a spiritual center for all people in the afternoon of life that really want to awaken to this new phase of their lives, a new way of living. And so it's a center that is deeply from my soul. It comes from my heart because I have lived it. I have been on my knees and I have grown from it, and now I'm able to share that with others.
Amazing. Thank you, Ariella. You're so well spoken and so beautiful to look at. So number 2, you kind of started going into it, but I want you to tell us, like, what is Soul Center and what is its mission?
Sure. So as Kara said, Soul Centered is a spiritual center for individuals. So we see men and women. I primarily see women in the afternoon of life, in midlife and beyond, although I have women in their 30s that are still my clients, because it doesn't matter what age you are, you can still have an awakening. For those individuals that are seeking healing, meaning, and purpose. And our mission is to really empower our clients and our community in consciously creating new goals and new rules and new tools for the afternoon of life, right? So this is a very different phase of life. And I help, specifically, my mission is to really help you discover your innate healing wisdom and to live wholeheartedly and unleash your soul. That is really only possible when you're going through that deep awakening. So we meet people at the crossroads of life. So not only are we going through the aging process, but we find often in our lives personally, and also in midlife, people in midlife, is that they're going through transitions, upheavals, divorce, trauma. A lot of trauma comes up in the midlife, in the afternoon of life. Divorce, aging parents, grief, illness, theirs or someone they love. Chronic illness, like I work with a lot of autoimmune issues, a lot of digestive issues. I've had my own. And really helping people find their soul purpose. Because really what worked in the morning of life, which is the morning of life, Carl Jung kind of coined this phrase, the morning of life has a different set of rules and tools. And then we shift into the afternoon, and it's like this whole new world. I always felt like, and I'm 48 years old, so I'm not like far into midlife, but I'm feeling it. And I always felt like as I entered into midlife, I was, especially going through perimenopause, I was walking around naked in the streets, as if everyone could see what I was going through. And so that's really, I help women specifically help you feel like you are in your body and you are awakening to your soul, so you can feel powerful.
And you're clothed.
And
you have clothing on. And you like what you're wearing. And you like what you're wearing.
Enjoy your clothes and your body. Yes. Yes.
So that takes us into that. My next question is, Soul Centered was founded, you're a co-founder with your husband, which is amazing. And so what is the work that you do together? And then taking into the second part of the question is, what is your work that, which you kind of answered, but then you could go into more of like maybe some of the specific tools that you use in your individual work.
Sure. So my husband and I, we've been married for 22 years, and our first discussion of creating a soul-centered type of place was when we were on an airplane. I don't know where we were going, but I think we were first married or engaged, and we were in full conversation about our retreat center in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, and we missed our flight. It was that intense. And I get all excited when I talk about it because it's never left. It's a 22-year-old dream. And so my husband, who's been in the rabbi world for so long, he was a conservative rabbi. So obviously we were in the States when he was doing that. And we just knew that this was a stepping stone into our bigger dream and our bigger purpose. And the funny thing about my husband and I is that we're very different. So he calls himself the guide in the afternoon of life because he does a lot of work with logotherapy. If you've obviously, most of you have heard of Viktor Frankl. And so he's a logotherapist. He does meaning work. I'm the healer in your afternoon of life. I am all about your body, your spirit, and your soul. So how do two people that come to this path, how do they end up meeting? And really that's our relationship, is that we meet in the soul and that we have a divine connection. We have this karmic connection, both personally and professionally. He's much better at tech than I am. So I'm grateful for him. But we do this work similarly in that we do meet in the soul. So we do podcasts together. We have a podcast up on our website. We do groups together. We just created a program, which I'll talk about at the end, called Own Your Power. So we created a program together. We do talks, things like this. We do this together or separately. And we do see individual clients. Occasionally they overlap. But we really just are open to all people, and we accept ourselves the way we are, just as we accept our clients. So our mission really together is to always, always meet in the soul. And when we can't meet in the soul, we come back to each other and consciously communicate so we can. And I think that's a way of life. And so we try to emulate that to our community.
And how would you, I'm adding a question just because it came to me from that, was
Sure.
how would you kind of help us as the audience to, because that's such a great way to say meet in the soul in any relationship, if it's the relationship with your husband, the relationship with your clients, the relationship with your children, what does that look like, or what's like a golden nugget that we could take home with us and start doing that ourselves, practicing that ourselves, meeting in the soul?
Yeah. So I would say the one thing that I've learned in meeting in the soul is that I have my own relationship with myself and the divine and my soul. And for years and years in our early marriage, I looked to him to fill me up and help me understand what I was feeling, because I was young and I just didn't know myself as well. And I had grown up with a lot of insecurities. And what I learned in becoming a woman over, 22 years is that I needed to take care of my side of the road before I enter into a shared soul experience with my husband. Whether you're in work with your spouse or your partner, or you're just in a relationship, is taking care of my side of the street means I need to check in with myself. Behind me is my meditation chair that I sit there. Everybody in my house knows I have teenagers and I have a younger one, and everybody knows that in the morning, this is where I am. And I get up really early so that no one can interrupt me. And I commune with my soul. Sometimes I speak out loud. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I write and journal. But it's my time to figure out what I'm feeling. And, we're human. I mess up a lot and I bring myself to him sometimes and it just doesn't come out right. But my attempt is to know myself so that I can meet in the soul with somebody else. And I think that's a really good nugget for all of us is if you're struggling with knowing who you are and wanting to connect with people in your relationships, the first step is to know who you are. And we have to take that time and space for ourselves. Really, I think it's really important, even during COVID, really important.
Amazing. Yeah. So this is, I want to take this a little bit further in, because I feel like all of us on this call, myself included, can really, this is one of the key points is knowing who you are. That's what this kind of call is about. That's what life's about. And are we giving ourselves that time to commune with our soul, to know who we are? And that's aside from your morning prayers or your journaling, or maybe it's journaling, but there's, finding that that activity. And here we could add an oil. What oil would would do you like personally? Do you add an oil during that time, or could you think of an oil that you would start adding to help you and take yourself back to when you were still kind of just visiting, like, I'm going to start getting to know who I am, because some of us might not be at the same spot as you are when you first got started in taking a moment every morning to commune with your soul and get to know who you are. What oil would you use?
So, great question. And I bring my oils in when I do meditate. So I'll use them early morning and then I'll shower and then I'll use them again and throughout the day. But really specifically for meditation, a meditation practice or a spiritual practice, um, it varies. It's funny because I love that emotional oil handbook, that little book, the yellow, I don't know what color it's.
Yeah,
Do you
it's
have it?
yeah, I have it. This one. Oh, I mean, there's so
That
many different editions now, but this is the
Yes. Okay, so I
emotions and
have a
essential
different,
essence.
right.
Mhm.
So I have a different cover, but if you don't have that book, that's really what I started with when I was learning my oils. So sometimes I'm dealing with boundary issues and I put On Guard on the bottom of my feet because the cinnamon is, and I think in the book it says, I haven't looked in a while, but I think that it specifically is used for boundaries.
Yeah.
Obviously, immune issues, but emotionally, if I'm having a hard time, so the bottom of your feet, you have two chakras that I look at as like doors, like a door. And to open the door, it means you're going to ground into the earth. That's the lowest chakra. So sometimes if I'm having a hard time with my boundaries, I'll put the On Guard on the bottom of my feet and imagine that my feet have these doorways and they're opening. And I just imagine roots going down from my pelvis into the earth, like a tree. But sometimes I need that oil to kind of like, On Guard for me is my I'm home oil. It
Yeah.
makes me feel like I'm in my body, and because it's so strong, it makes me feel like I'm home in my body. The other one, of course, I love is frankincense. Frankincense is my friend. So On Guard is my home, and frankincense is my spiritual guide. Frankincense I use definitely in my meditation practice. I put it anywhere that my body is calling, my neck, somewhere I can smell it. I put it on my face every day, so I also can smell myself all day.
Okay.
Um, but I know frankincense is like the king of all oils, and it's used for so many different things. And I know it was used in early times as really an opening to your spirituality.
Hmm.
So I would say those are the main two oils that I'm really connected to. But I would encourage you, if you're creating a spiritual practice in that space for yourself, is to practice with your intuition.
Hmm.
Smell it. I'm sure Kara has said this. Smell it and feel how it resonates with you. The only reason I know that On Guard feels like home to me is because I've practiced with it. It's a relationship as well. I practice with my oils all the time.
Amazing. Thank you. That's so great. This is going to be a practice that I do. So one oil that came to me that I think is really great, and that everybody on the call could also smell it and see how it resonates with them, is the balance
Yes.
for at the bottom of the feet, as you do with On Guard, for the same reasons of just opening up those doors, grounding your lower chakra down into the earth, and creating those boundaries for you as well. it has frankincense in it. So it's nice that it has frankincense in it, and a bunch of the wood oils and low lying oils like chamomile. So it's all about grounding. But and you can always blend them, like on guard, if you do feel like you need some um, boundary checks and imbalance, or and the balance together for feeling at home. And I really love what you say about um, meeting in the soul, whether it's with your partner or with another relationship in your life. It's so important for us to know our soul, because I think it's not just an immature, like, morning of life women, it's women in general. And it might be different culturally, America versus Israel, but like, I definitely resonate with like looking for um, um, approval or affirmation, or um, just confirming how I'm feeling from your husband or your partner or your friend, or um, and this take home for all of us today from Ariella, thank you so much for being here, is this is our time, you guys, to be in ourselves, to know our soul, to feel it fully, and give ourselves affirmation and appreciation and confirmation, and know that your intuition is absolutely 100% correct, and move from that place and give yourself time to be with your soul, and be with yourself, and you're going to just flourish and have amazing relationships because of coming from this place. So
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you, Ariella, for being here. I'm learning so much already. Um, so next,
I'll add,
go
I
ahead.
just want to add to that, Kara. I think
Yeah.
that also we get so busy with life, and especially now, but we, in general, a lot of us are taking care of other people, whether it's
Mhm.
children or other things, and we take for granted that our bodies are our bodies, and that we don't rest enough, and that we think, well, I have all these children, or I have all this huge life, and if we put ourselves on the back burner. I mean, I did that when I was nursing for, I think, 10 years in a row, and just completely sleepless in my 30s. I barely remember. And then your 40s, it's like it is a huge wake up, because you recognize that it's time to take care of you, and that goes on into the afternoon of life. But a lot of times when you're looking at how to take care of yourself, we have emotional blocks, and it's something I'll get into today, but we have emotions and limiting beliefs don't that are blocking us from helping us remember that we are whole just the way we are. So it's an
Yeah.
important practice to start learning to take care of you, even if it's in 5-minute increments, which
Yeah.
is what I'm doing today, because I have 3 out of 4 kids home, which I know a lot of us do. And you just take those 5 minutes, and then you go and parent or work, and then you come back and you put your oils on and you take a deep breath, and then you keep going.
Yeah.
So
I mean, so I was going to ask you, like, what's a minimum that you would recommend, and you answered it. So 5 minutes, and we can all do that, and maybe do a few 5 minutes throughout the day, with the oils that are helping you. So the next question takes us into, I do want you to go into at some point some of your individual work,
sure.
so you can kind of figure out when that is. But I was going to say that you know that this community on this call today are all women that are using essential oils in their life, um, for their current healing or their progress on their path. And so what would some of the oils that you would recommend, like, so if we were your clients, um, and what would be some of the oils that you would recommend that us to use for our specific journeys? And
Mhm.
we're so let's like maybe narrow it down to maybe some of the I'm really interested in learning a little bit more about your releasing the lineage trauma and
Okay.
what that means, and maybe some oils that help with that specific process.
Sure. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I do when I work individually with women, and then I'll show you how that leads into our oils and specific things.
Great.
A lot of women come to me because they ache to transform their lives at some point. They feel like they've been holding back, and they have a lot of limiting beliefs that they've been living with their whole lives. I would say that's number one, is that we
Yeah.
think we're on this path and we're doing okay, and we realize that there's a lot of beliefs that aren't us anymore, and we want to transform that. Or some women have a crisis. They're having a crisis of their soul, or they're having transitions, as I mentioned before. A lot of women come to me in grief and having their own illnesses, their own issues in their bodies. And basically, they've used things outside of themselves to cover that pain up, and they can no longer push their pain away, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual. So some of us feel lost in our relationships, maybe again, they're grieving, or they just feel, like I said, like they're walking around in this world and they don't know who they are. And as perimenopause and menopause kicks in, it really forces you to ask, what is that fire within me? Sometimes menopause and perimenopause is about burning away the old you, and I think of it as a metamorphosis, like you're in a cocoon, and at some point or not, we have this dark place, these shadows, and the afternoon of life is the invitation to become the butterfly. But we have to sit in that darkness. The butterfly doesn't come out right away and become whole. She grows, and I help you on those growing pains and the growing stages. And so specifically what I do is that I do things in two ways. The first way is that I intuitively can see and feel into the lines of trauma and wounds. Some of them are not trauma, they're just wounds that you have had that have been with you for generations that are actually not your own. I have a client that was convinced and knew that she was sexually abused. And once we went into her history and I intuitively guided her, she recognized that it was her mother and not her. But she
Wow.
took on those emotions of her mother because her mom wouldn't talk about it. So that's what I mean by lineage trauma. It may not be yours. I work also with Holocaust survivors, grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, that recognize that a lot of their trauma is based on history and things that have been passed down. So we work on helping you find emotional freedom and accessing deep emotions that are stored inside of your body through what I call emotional guided visualizations. So we go deep inside of the body, and the result is that you find new courage and strength to face your emotions head on, when usually we stuff them under the rug for another day. I don't have time to deal with this. I don't have time to deal with that. And so I help women through these visualizations to really gain emotional and physical and spiritual freedom. In addition, like I said, I do a lot of energy work. So I was trained years ago, I think 22 years ago, in Reiki, and it's morphed into different styles of energy work and intuitive guidance. So there are times on the path that we tap into lost loved ones to help you heal from those generational traumas. But really, I want you to get to the root cause of why you are having the issues you're having. For years, I put Band-Aids over my wounds. And finally, when I was able to find a guide to help me face them, I got to the root cause of my issues, and they left. We always have to deal with things, but it's true emotional, physical, and spiritual freedom. And then what I find is that my clients' relationships change and their lives change for the better. Some of the things that I use along the path, like I want to talk about the oils that I use on the pathway to healing, is that, Kara, you wanted specifically,
Maybe some
um,
specifics for self-limiting beliefs,
sure.
and like, we're those of us on the call have not had the opportunity yet to do the lineage trauma with you, but if most likely we all have something along those lines going on with us. So
Mhm.
what would be some oils that we could start using right away to kind of help
Absolutely.
in that process?
Absolutely. What I find is a combination of things. So especially for if you're working with somebody, or personally you feel that they are dealing with something deeper than just an ache and a pain, and you notice that it's more historical. Number one, and my go-to is always frankincense. As I said, it cleanses the spirit. It promotes more enlightenment. So it's going to open your higher chakras. When we're
Mhm.
stuck in our lower chakras, this is where our lower chakras are, where the emotional traumas usually find their way and get stuck. So frankincense is going to help you, along with a couple other ones, open that higher awareness that you are not your emotions. Emotions just travel through your body. But when you clear them, you create this beautiful pathway inside of your body. And frankincense helps you lift up to a higher knowing. So you can intuitively know yourself as whole and divine as you are. I love bergamot for anxiety and fear, which a lot of my clients have this despair anchor inside of them that usually hooks them in their stomach and their heart, in their lower regions. Like, so low self-esteem, um, a self-acceptance, self-love. A bergamot, I read, is the oil of acceptance.
Mhm.
So really, it's the citrus, it's one of the citrus oils. So it's uplifting. I use it a lot on my children also, just as a side, for anxiety and fear. Myrrh. I love myrrh for cleansing the body's cellular memory. So this
Ooh.
is where a lot of the negative thoughts and emotions we have from lineage trauma can help with that. Um, I'm always drawn, when I work with clients, a lot of our work is the pelvis, the lower back. It's just always happens in women. Pelvis, lower back, lower chakras, grounding. And I help them use myrrh and frankincense together, again, to lift up and get out of it. But to myrrh helps you feel it and release. We have to do the work with it, but it helps you release those negative thoughts and emotions and limiting beliefs that are often attracted to and hook onto our lineage traumas.
Mm.
If you've
And
heard of, oh, go ahead.
with the myrrh, are you having them, you would have them smell it, or you're applying it topically?
So with the frankincense, they apply it topically. The myrrh, I play with it. Sometimes the myrrh is not, like, my body doesn't like it, and so sometimes more smelling would be
Mhm.
more appropriate. But
Mhm.
again, everyone's different, so you really have to use your intuition and see how it works for your body. Sometimes it's too strong. So it's really dependent on what the person needs and wants. So I,
Mhm.
as Kara has taught you, like, always smell your oils so
Mhm.
you can get a sense of, wow, this is way too strong for my body, or wow, I want more.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so rose oil, I haven't used in a while. I actually ran out and I need to order some. But for in the beginning of COVID, I had my second panic attack of my life. My first one is when my father-in-law died. And I didn't really know it, but I was in a panic attack. And I actually did use rose oil with, of course, my frankincense. And I used a lot of the emotional oils, the emotional blends that come in that
Mhm.
kit. That really helped because of what Kara said in the beginning, like the grounding. There's a lot of wood oils, low
Mhm.
level, low
Low
grounding.
lying flowers. Low lying
Yes,
flowers. Mhm.
yes. So the rose oil in combination with my emotional oil kits, they help with panic attacks, grief and loss. I like to use rose as well.
Mm.
Um, what else? I have another list here. Hold on. Sandalwood. I remember selling a lot of sandalwood in Israel when I lived in Israel. Everybody loved sandalwood. Um, they help mend spiritual and emotional wounds. So if you're working with somebody that says that they just can't connect to something higher than themselves, but they want this spiritual, it's more of like a spiritual practice, but you sense, and you, after talking to them, you understand that they have a lot of emotional blockages inside of their body. Sandalwood is really opening. It inspires us to trust. and open, which is what we need when we're helping somebody or we are ourselves to deal with those emotional wounds, right? So often it's just getting somebody in the door to say, like, I will hold your hand, I'll help you through this. Even if you're selling the oils and you're using this in a practice that you have already, that part of it is just getting their foot in the door and getting them to trust you. So sandalwood is like this nice oil that helps you feel grounded and trusting, and then you can move on with the rest of your work. Vetiver is like my love, my go-to. Great for grounding, soothes and calms the body. I always feel like this I could just feel myself ground when I use it. I do also use it on I have people use it on the bottom of their feet or on their lower back, the root chakra. I like that especially. What else? I have one more. Oh, I have a lot more. How much do you want from me?
Let's do 2 more.
Okay. I always say this wrong, but I'm going to say ylang-ylang. Did I say it right?
No, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I play with this oil. For some people, I think it's a little sweet. And so for me, I've gone away from it and then I come back to it. But some of my clients really love the sweetness of it. It's what I think of it when I use it is like an inner child healing. So some of the work I do is ancestral trauma healing, and it goes automatically with inner child healing. Because if you have wounds from your history, from your trauma, then inner child healing is all about gathering that little girl that had, issues of childhood. We all do. Gathering that little girl. And what I do is that I help you place her inside of your body. So often we don't even know it, but our little girl, that little girl who grew up in the home you did, she lives outside of our bodies. And it's soul retrieval. It's bringing her back in. So ylang-ylang is a beautiful, beautiful oil for sweetness and kindness and calming. And when I wear it, I think of like really just bringing my inner child into my heart. So that's really great for women that have a hard time connecting to the pieces of themselves. A lot of us, we split off. If we've had a big trauma, we split off. So that's a great oil. Okay, last one. I mean, we all use lavender.
Yeah.
Lavender
is good.
Yeah, I mean, lavender is, as you know, reduces anxiety. So frankincense and lavender is kind of it's always my go-to, and then I add to it. So sometimes we can put that in a diffuser if you're using, I mean, I'm known to use like 5, 6, 10 oils on my body at once. It depends how much you can handle. But sometimes I'll just throw it all into a diffuser or have my clients throw it in when they're really going through anxiety. Through COVID, which is a whole other discussion, I'm sure it's really a great idea to use lavender before sleep to release some of that anxiety so we don't have our minds going constantly. So in some of the work that I do, it's also great for healing ancestry trauma, because you can't deal with your wounds if you're in anxiety and stress. It's just too hard. And so it just takes the immune system and the nervous system and calms it all down. So we can work on your spiritual path. So we can work on your higher self, and we can work on healing those lower chakras, the lower wounds. So again, I love the lavender as like an overall.
Yeah. And lavender, a couple Zoom calls ago, we talked about how lavender is a throat chakra opening oil, which is your truth, your expression, like manifesting your full expression of your path, of your soul. So lavender is really appropriate in this work that you're talking about of getting in touch with our soul and hearing and understanding its truth and being able to manifest and express it fully. So lavender is like, we kind of, all of us that use oils, and when we talk about it, we kind of laugh a little bit like, well, lavender, but it's like, it's such a powerful oil, and one that should be in everybody's repertoire and that you're using daily. Like I have it in I have it in the diffuser all the time with whatever combination. I'm always going to drop a couple drops of lavender, no matter what the combination is.
Same.
So lavender, it's the queen of oils, like, and we're all queens. We're talking about queens here, so we gotta give ode to the queen. So I want to take us into, because we want to keep this to, we're at 45 minutes and I want to open it up to questions, but I want to take us into the fifth question of, tell us about your 7-day Own Your Power program and how we could experience that.
Yes. So I'm going to put the link and then I'm going to tell you about it just so I know how to do it. Hold on one second, I'll make sure it comes in. Okay. I think I did it. So I just put the link in the chat. So Own Your Power is a joint program. It's a complementary joint program that I have on our website. My husband and I both did. Really, Own Your Power is this idea that we created because in life, we all go through what I talked about, like these these transitions, tribulations, challenges. Life right now is one big challenge, right? But life in general can be challenging, and we can all go through these different changes in life. And we need tools to gather us and to help us move forward. You use your oils, that's a tool. We all need tools along our way. So Own Your Power, OM, like Om, is a 7-day multimedia program, and we help you get centered. Some of these tools are ancient, but also modern. We help you get centered and grounded. So there's meditations, there's guided meditations, there's visualizations, there's PDFs that you can download, there's journaling. We help you find calm and clarity with anything that you're struggling with, and also to discover a deeper, greater meaning and purpose in your life. We also want you to help you in this 7-day program to experience physical, emotional, and spiritual healing and to feel whole. Because no matter what goes on outside of us, the most important thing is that we bring ourselves whole to anything that we face. Then we can really face anything. I'm sure most of you, all of us, have been through a lot. And when you feel whole, you can handle it. So in the chat, I put a link. You just go onto the front page of the website and you click on Own Your Power. And it's an easy 7-day program, which I hope you will use. And I wanted to offer you, I know we have to go into questions. I wanted to offer you just like a little gift. I have a program. It's a 12-week program that I offer to women. And if you would like to schedule a complimentary 30-minute discussion with me in the next week, I can give you $100 off the program so that you can, so we can create relationship and to further the discussion. So that is also on on the link that I gave you.
Amazing. So just to reiterate the link, and I'll put it on the WhatsApp group too. mysoulcentered.org is Ariella's website for Soul Centered, and there's Own Your Power program. It's a 7-day program that's free, a free offering that her and Baruch, her husband, offer. And then you can also then additionally do a 30-minute consultation with Ariella to see if her 12-week program is fitting for you, and then you would get a discount off of that program. And you're saying they could schedule that with you through your website, the mysoulcentered.org.
Yes, I think it's either up. The scheduler is either up, or you can email. You'll see the contact us. It's in the process. But yeah, either way, you can email me.
Well, I'm so excited to do the 7-day Own Your program, and I have a consultation scheduled with Ariella already for next week. Next week, I think, or it might be this week.
This week, I think.
This week, yay, Thursday. I'm excited. I'm going to stop the recording and open us up for questions. Thank you so much for being here, Ariella. You're so inspiring. And I am so happy to have had this conversation with you, to go home with these golden nuggets of knowing you guys sitting with your soul, like that 5-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute meditation that I think we all should bring into our life, of sitting with our oils and focusing on being with our soul, communing with our soul was the language that Ariella used, and I love that. Because this is our time. This is our time to know ourselves, to let that butterfly come out of the cocoon and let our wings spread and be our unique, special selves that we are, and stop questioning and be in your intuition and be in your power and use the tools that you have already and use Ariella. And let's open it up for questions.